Looks like we're recording.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll have you ask the questions and I'll answer.
All right, that'll work. Okay. So, what attracted you to come back to the Olympic Peninsula?
Well, my wife and I did a lot of traveling, and we were traveling for 6 years across the world. And whenever we came across the Hood Canal Bridge, because we were flying into Seattle all the time, and then we would rent a car and drive across the Hood Canal Bridge. And every time we went across the Hood Canal Bridge, it just felt like this was home. And my wife's family is from Port Townsend, and she graduated from high school there, and her family lives there, and so I that was the place that I uh, found a job. I was a principal in Port Townsend for 6 or 7 years, and so that's become kind of a home for me. My first home is always Montana. I grew up in Montana and on the Salish and Kootenai Reservation, and went to school there. Was educated in at Bozeman, Montana, and also in Missoula, Montana, for my bachelor's and my master's degree. So my family lives in Montana, and that seems to kind of be home number one, and home number two is Port Townsend now. But I'm kind of a traveler all over the world. I've got friends and loved ones all over the world. So the world is my home.
Yeah. Um, kind of think of that. Came up with another question that I don't think is on my list. May I ask it?
Yeah.
Um, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I was really lucky in that. And this is an interesting, great. I'm glad you asked this question because this is a conversation I've had with many people. I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I knew that from the day, um, probably since I was a sophomore in high school. I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I came from a family of teachers, so I was always around the school. My mother was probably way ahead of the curve as a teacher. She was a project based experiential type of teacher. That was kind of the group of teachers that I had growing up. Was they were always pushing us to the outdoors. They were always pushing us to looking at kind of a project based thematic, tying all the subjects together type of approach of instruction, and with a strong environmental outdoor theme involved. And so growing up as a kid, that was the experiences that I had. And um, in high school, I had some amazing teachers that had us doing projects with younger kids. And so their attitude was if you could teach it, you really knew what you were doing. And so, I spent a lot of time teaching younger kids when I was a sophomore, junior, and senior in high school, teaching younger grades, reading to kids or doing windmill projects or helping them with different activities that they might be involved in, science fair projects, you name it. We were always involved in that. So I was fortunate. I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. Um, I thought everybody kind of knew what they wanted to be, and, and I have learned that no, that's not true. That I've been blessed to know that, and other people, have kind of had to jump around and figure that out. And even my own two sons, they've struggled to kind of figure out where their passion is and how they can make a living doing that. And so I have been blessed.
Yeah. You seem like you had your life figured out right on time in high school. You figured out I'm gonna be.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd use the word figured out, life figured out. I certainly know that a constant for me has been that I've been an educator for 33 years. Um, Life has definitely takes had its ups and downs for me. It hasn't all been smooth sailing. I've had my moments of difficulty, probably just like anybody else. I've been fortunate to have a supportive family around me that's always picked me up, loved me, and cared for me. I've had friends that have watched out for me and provided me uh, encouragement, but also called me on the carpet and said, "Hey, you need to change your ways here." So that's been those friends are far and few between. It's nice to have that. So I would say yes, I have a constant of education in my life. I would say my life has probably been as mixed up as anybody else's life.
Yeah. Um, I have come up with another one that has to do with this topic. Do you want to hear the question?
Sure.
How difficult was college for you to be able to get in the position you are now?
College was just an amazing time for me. It was a huge period of growth for me, if I could go back and do any part of my life over, I would go back and do college. I just had such a great time leaving home and kind of on my own and not too far away that I could get back to family support when I needed it. But I did a lot of. I was fortunate. I was cross country and track on a scholarship, and I wasn't a very good student. I struggled as a student, and the first year of college, some of the distractions of being on your own and not doing my homework and not having very good study skills and some of those kinds of things really impacted me. I was faced with some distractions, and I ended up losing my college scholarship, and I had to get it back. Academics had to be number one, and I wasn't making academics number one. It was down on the priority list. So that was a hard lesson to learn in my freshman year of college. My my father said to me, "You got to go to work and earn the money to go back to college." And he wasn't going to just write a check for me, so I had to work on the green chain and the lumber mill, and that was how I paid for my second year of college. And then I got my scholarship back. Improved my grades and was off and going fine from there. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was a good story on that. Let's see.
Thank you.
What are your feelings about being in the superintendent position at the Quileute Tribal School so far?
Well, this has been pretty challenging coming in as a new superintendent and in this COVID environment. I have to say, in the first time in my 33, 34 years of doing this, that I don't know a lot of the students, and usually, that's the thing that I'm always excited about, is meeting young people that have a lot of hope for the future, and are struggling with life's decisions sometimes, and helping them find success and find the right path. Is one of the main reasons I'm an educator. Uh, the I'm familiar. I'm excited to be out here. I felt like it was kind of a calling for me to come out here to QTS. I grew up on the reservation in Montana. Many of my family members are intermarried. My sons are both tribal members of the Navajo tribe. I'm familiar with the culture and the customs of tribal life. Grew up going to powwows, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then I grew up in Western Montana, which was a bit remote, and, clean water, clean air, lots of outdoor recreation. Those are all things that I kind of took them for granted. And then when I went and traveled overseas and saw the rest of the world, I realized how fortunate we are to have clean water and clean air and family and friends and the cultures and the traditions that we have. So yeah, it feels like a calling to be out here on the Quileute Nation and helping them to realize their own sovereignty.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that was a good explanation. Okay. I got another one. Let's see. What accomplishments fill you with pride so far this year?
Well, it's a lot of the work that I am doing right now is kind of building relationships, building teams, helping working with our school board to help them realize their vision and mission that they have for the school, uh, and then helping our admin director team understand that mission and vision, and so that they can teach that and carry that on in their leadership roles with the staff, the students, and with the parents. So we are very fortunate as a school to have a very clear mission and vision statement, which really circulates around three things, and that is that the school board desires, and I think the community really desires, that our students come away with global skills. The skills that students are going to need today and into the future are very different than the skills that maybe I needed as an individual starting out. And now it's more of a recognition of that. We are in a global economy. We need to be problem solvers. We need to be able to discern facts from opinion. We need to be critical readers of information. We need to be able to communicate effectively. Um, and we need to be able to recognize the value of diversity across our uh, continent and across the world. And so, I see those kinds of things developing. And do we have a long ways to go? Sure, we have a long ways to go. But global skills, our language, the Quileute language and the Quileute culture, those are important things for us to be developing. And our school board, is desiring that. Having traveled overseas and experienced international living, um, I saw it every day. If you can walk into a culture, if you can walk into the uh, Arab culture, and you have an understanding of a bit of understanding of Arabic culture, and you can teach yourself to be speaking the language, you're going to make friends. You're going to see people, so they're going to see you as trying to fit into their particular culture. And sometimes what happens is Americans is we tend to think that everybody has to adapt to us. And that's just not how the world works. we've got to, we've got to be open and receptive to other cultures and other languages, and teach ourselves uh, how to integrate in those societies. So I think that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, I got a comment on that. Um, well, yeah, Americans think that we are like the thing of the world. But in reality, the larger population is Hindi and Chinese, which is over in Asia.
Yeah,
In a lot of, I think there's a large population in Africa as well.
indeed, indeed. Yeah, the Muslim religion is one of the largest ones in the world. And I've been fortunate to travel in China and Nepal and Pakistan and India and of course the Middle East, most of the Middle East, North Africa. Um, you know, we as Americans, we are extremely fortunate. Everybody wants to come to America, and no matter where you're at in the world. And as Americans, I was treated very well overseas as an American. I think sometimes we take for granted what we have here in America. We are we have an amazing country. I mean, we have freedoms that nobody else has, and you know. I don't think sometimes we realize how lucky we are. Um, and yet, traveling across the world, uh, people want to come to America. They really do. And it's exciting to be an ambassador for America. Exciting to uh, kind of represent what it means to be an American overseas. And yeah, sure, America's had its dark side too in certain countries, and I learned a lot about that, especially in Central America and South America. I learned a lot about the role that America played, and that has a dark side. And but for the most part, it's the ideals of democracy are well at work across the world.
Yeah, I think I got a lot of information from that. I learned a lot more about you than what I could remember from when you first came in and talked. I knew you came from Montana area. You had children that were tribal, correct?
Yeah, and
Yes.
grandchildren.
So
I have four grandchildren too that all speak Salish fluently and write Salish fluently.
that's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, here comes some more interesting stuff. Do you have any embarrassing stories from working in schools that you are willing to share?
I, when I saw this question, it was hard for me to kind of figure out which ones to tell. I have to tell the story at the beginning of my career. I was about 3 months as a teacher, fresh out of college, and I accidentally mooned my entire class. And I was a science teacher, and I was teaching a freshman earth science class. And I had a light in the middle of the room set up, and I was walking around the classroom with a basketball and a softball, and I was kind of showing the phases of the moon, believe it or not. True story. And I knocked something off my desk as I walked by. I bent over to pick it up, and my pants split wide open. And I didn't happen to be wearing any undergarments at that time, and the girl in the front row said, "Mr. Decker, is that the full moon phase?" And I was so embarrassed because I had mooned my entire freshman earth science class, and I thought I was going to be fired. I thought I was done. And I went down to the principal's office and I said, "Mr. Penner, I have something to talk to you about." And he said, "I already heard that you mooned your class." So there you go. I'm sure that I don't remember the young lady's name that said that to me. I wish I could remember because I'd like to talk to her about it today to see if she still remembers that moment, that accident.
Do you have the yearbook from that
No, I
school?
don't. I don't have a yearbook. No.
Well, I'm sure if you can get in contact with any of those students, I'm sure they'd probably share the name.
Yeah, 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 they would. And then, I worked overseas, and there were just so many, so many funny moments around language. And, you just have to kind of learn to laugh at yourself a lot, and the customs that, you just kind of step all over them sometimes. And yeah. And one of the words that I first always learned overseas was what's the word for kind of like I made a mistake, or no worries. In Thailand, the word is "my pen rai," no worries. In Arabic, the word is "mush mushkala," means no worries, hey, everything's okay, no worries. And so I ended up learning that phrase and using it quite a bit because there were many times that I made mistakes around language and culture. And usually, if you could kind of laugh about it and laugh at yourself, then it usually meant things went a little smoother with in building those relationships in new cultures.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Oh, here we go. Here's a good one. What is some advice you could give a youth for achieving success in their lifetime?
Well, I thought a lot about this question that you sent to me early too, and it um, I think really what it comes down to is really knowing who you are and where you come from. I think that the those are two really important things for students to know who you are, what you stand for, what are your morals and values, and where do you come from, meaning what drives you, what's the culture or what's the heritage or um, what are the family values, so to speak, that drive you. And then I have to say, I use goal setting a lot for me personally. I try to set a goal and say, this is what I want to achieve. And that worked really well for me when I was an athlete. And I found that kind of carried over into my personal life too. If I said I was going to set a goal of running a 4 minute mile, what are the things that I had to do and able to achieve that? And what were the day to day things that I had to do and able to get to that particular goal? And that was that in it. I didn't never meet that goal, but I did run a 4:07 minute mile, and it was a lot of work, a lot of hard work. Um, I think the other thing is that there are a lot of amazing people in the world who have very similar values and morals as many of us, and it really centers around the regard for love of family and a belief in a better world, and kind of a faith and hope for the future. And every place I went overseas, and memories come back. Nepal, in some of the poorest places of Nepal that I walked, people down and out. You would think they were down and out, living in a tin cardboard shack. They had a love of family. They had their family around them. They uh, were open to others. They the people in Tunis, Tunisia, would just go out of their way to to help, to invite us into their families to be part of. And what I learned from that is that when I learned to set with those families and set with those people, I learned that they weren't any different than me. That they were, cared about their families, that they believed that the world was going to be a better place, and that they had their own faith, and they had a hope that things were going to be better for their children than what their life had been. And that's pretty much me. I want a better life for my grandchildren, my children. I want a better life for our students here at QTS than what I've had. And I have my faith, and I have my family, my love of my family, and I am an eternal optimist and believe that the world is going to be a better place for others.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very good that you believe that because the world should be a better place than what it is right now.
Yeah, there's some dark moments in all parts of history, and some people may agree this is the dark period, and some others may not agree. And I think that's one thing we have to realize. It may feel dark for us, but it may not be dark for others. And how do we kind of negotiate that with others?
Yeah, because there's always somebody doing worse than you are right now.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. see. Oh yeah. What is a quote or saying that you live your life by?
Well, it's funny because I use these quotes. I actually write them down, and I have them stored in my computer. But my favorite one is "The apple never falls far from the tree." And what I've learned with that is over the years, when you look at students and children, you as they get ready to leave the home or whatever it may be, they they're excited to leave, as I was ready to leave the home and go to college. And yet, I see a lot of my father and my mother in me. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that this apple hasn't fallen very far from the tree because of the values of my parents and my family. I tend to have some of those very similar values. So the apple never falls far from the tree. And then when it kind of goes along with it, I heard this in a Mongolian culture about raising eagles, and it says what the baby sees in the nest is repeated as it grows older. What the baby sees in the nest is repeated as it grows older. And so when you think about baby animals and things like that growing up, the modeling that is done by the parents in the nest is what will be repeated when the baby grows older. Uh, and then
Yeah.
another one that I like, I don't tend to quote it very often, but it's one I like, and that is that it's by a guy named Pestalozzi, and it's kind of a saying that I like. Is this, the tool that touches the hearts and minds of our learners? It's the teacher, and it's not about all of the extra stuff that goes on around, but it's really the education is really the relationship between the teacher and the student. And that is so key to helping schools move forward. You can take everything else away, take all the technology away. There is teaching that's happening in some parts of the world right now, and there is no technology, and students are sitting underneath of a tree with a teacher, and the teacher is mentoring them in that process. So there is I think that's another one of the quotes that I like.
Yeah. Well, right after the beginning, I'm just gonna say this. I had a quick thing where like I couldn't hear anything, but I heard most of what you said.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I probably
And
missed like a sentence or two.
and you have the recording, so you're okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. What would the students be surprised to find out about you?
Well, I I'm not sure. I know I shared a lot of things with some of the students when I interviewed for the position out here. I missed qualifying for the Olympic trials in the 1500 meters by 7 seconds. I'm not in that kind of shape like I used to be, but I can still run pretty fast to the refrigerator, which would show. Uh, I'm a pretty good sized guy right now, not the slim trim 125, 130 pounds that I was when I was running 100 miles a week to train for the Olympic trials. And I think another thing is I've lived in 4 countries other than the United States, and I've visited 34 countries in the last 6 years. I think those might be things students might be surprised by.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Well, again, I was real fortunate to, and there's always pluses and minuses to those things, Norman. I mean, I was away from my family during that time too, so it's hard to be away, and you can't just get on a plane and fly home. You can, but it's expensive, and
Yeah.
so there's always positives and negatives to every decision.
Yeah, like a negative would be to run your bank account down to keep flying.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't a period that I did a particularly good job of saving because I was really focused on traveling and seeing the world. So costs money to do that.
Yeah, the way I see it, you got one life and you might as well do what you want to do while you can.
And, Norman, that's a great attitude. I think you're right on track there.
Yeah, it just depends on what you're into. If you're in the, well, I wouldn't say put yourself into like huge amount of debt, but
Right. Right.
do what you can afford. Like if you wanted to see the world, you could probably, and you're just an average person, you probably could make time for vacation to do maybe fly to a country in Europe or Asia and keep doing them throughout your life because you
Yeah.
never know when you're gonna go.
Yeah. And I think, my wife and I, when we made that decision to travel, we recognized that we would never be able to travel to 34 countries, if we were working here from the United States. And so we were fortunate to be able to take our work and go overseas and do that same work in a variety of different countries. So being a principal in Tunisia, and being a principal in Saudi Arabia, and then working for a school in China, they were, I was fortunate to be able to have a job that allowed me to, have an income while I was also going out and experiencing other cultures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually kind of interesting. It, I'm curious, did you know that many fluent languages, or did you just know enough to get by?
Yeah, I didn't know really any languages. I had picked up a little bit of Thai. We called it taxi Thai, just enough to kind of get around in taxis when I lived in Thailand. And I was just kind of getting started on some Chinese. Just simple ni hao, hello, and in Saudi, I had about 25 words in Arabic. If you pick up Arabic, there's different dialects of Arabic in different parts of the world. And so in Saudi, the dialect was different than the Saudi dialect in Tunisia. And since Tunisia was so influenced by the French, um, there's a lot of mixture of Arabic and French together in Tunisia. So you not only had to kind of master you had to be aware of that Arabic was being mixed with French in the spoken language and the street language basically of Tunis. And the further south that you went in Tunisia, the less French influence there was, and so more heavier dialect of Arabic. So, and it just because of the French influence from across the Mediterranean. So I didn't know a lot of language at all. I took 4 years or 3 years of German in high school, and I don't think the only thing I know how to do is sing "O Tannenbaum," "O Christmas Tree."
Oh yeah, same with me with Spanish. I didn't get much from that. I can read it better. That's
uh,
basically the only thing I got out of it.
I think
I
one
could
of the
pronounce,
things. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I could pronounce it. Like if I read it, I could probably pronounce it better than I could when I began. That's the only thing I really got out of the Spanish class.
I one of the things that I learned about working overseas was that I really believe we're teaching foreign language the wrong way. I think we really need to be teaching languages from birth to five and birth to early elementary because um, I just learned that uh, a short story when I went to Thailand, a number of people that I was going over there with, they had young children. And when we landed in August, we all started school together. By Thanksgiving, we were all sitting around, um, and the toddlers were running around, and they were already speaking Thai in just a few short months. Let's see, August, September, October, November. So in 4 months, the just young toddlers were speaking Thai, and because the parents were going to school and teaching in English, the children were staying home with the Thai maid, and the Thai maid was only speaking Thai, so the kids were fully immersed in Thai language, and they just absorbed it so quickly, and it was just shocking to see how quickly some of those toddlers picked that language up. And I walked away from that experience saying we really need to change the way we teach languages. It needs to be taught from birth to early elementary, and that's really key. And I've watched that with my own grandson, who speaks and writes fluently in Salish, so much so that he's having trouble with English starting kindergarten, because he'll eventually become a bilingual person, but he was totally immersed in Salish, and that really just made him a great speaker in English as a 5-year-old.
Yeah, I agree with you on the birth to 5 or 6 because I knew a little bit of Spanish because of that and a little bit of other words from other languages, but probably not much anymore.
Right.
But yeah, that's when your brain is mushy and you absorb everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So much harder as an
Like,
adult to learn that language.
yeah. My dad told me a story about him going to Germany in the army. He couldn't speak another language worth a hoot much
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
And he
saying.
was like, yeah, he was with these kids that would tell whoever what he wanted to say or go to a bar and get them to say what they needed to say.
Right.
But yeah, these kids could speak like all them like major Europe, like English, French, probably Spanish, Swedish,
Yeah. Indeed.
German.
I ran into that. I ran into young people, not necessarily young people, but people my own age in Europe, that it was not uncommon for them to have a pretty good understanding of Spanish and French, along with their uh, their native language.
Yeah, I mean you kind of have to if you want to travel beyond your country. There's like other countries right next to
Yeah,
that speak like German, Polish, Greek,
indeed. Italian.
Russian.
Mamma mia.
Oh yeah, Italian. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Italy's yeah. I kind of want to visit some of the major European country like Italy and France.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
because
I encourage you to do so. I think anymore the world is traveling right now, especially the Chinese. Everywhere you go, the Chinese are traveling. I think the Chinese middle class is larger than the U.S. population. Total U.S. population, I think, is the number, if I remember that correctly. And so everywhere you travel to, the pyramids. When I was at the pyramids, the amount of Chinese that there was amazing. Um, Rome, Venice, um, you name it, all over the world.
hmm yeah, that's impressive that there's but then again, I'm not that knowledgeable on China's amount of wealth and people have the income to do that.
Yeah, it's really changing, and I was only in China for a short period of time, so I didn't get to learn as much there and see as much. But the I don't think as Americans we probably realize how big the Chinese population is in comparison to America or any other country, for that matter. But when you start looking at, I'm pretty sure that I have it right. I might be wrong, but I believe the Chinese middle class, what they call the middle class now, is larger than the entire U.S. population. So that's some pretty uh, impressive. I don't know if I want to say buying power or if I want to say carbon footprint. I'm not quite sure what to say, which one to say, but it's it's going to create some real challenges for the world economy.
Oh yeah. Okay. I got three more that I'm gonna try and get through in our time range,
Okay.
but I put them in order to like most important or somewhat like that. So let's see. Oh, what's your feelings on the weather out here or in Ead Forks and La Push in general?
I'm fine with it. I like living near the water. It's I'm a Pisces, so I really I like the water. Um, but I lived in Aberdeen for 3 years and worked down there, so I'm used to the rainfall. I think that living on the coast, one of the nice things about it is that you get the rain and then you kind of get these little breaks. You know, you see the breaks in the weather, and so you get the sunshine. You can't get the sunshine too. I lived in Saudi Arabia for 3 years, so 100 degrees was not uncommon to be around 100 degrees and 90 degrees at night, and on a real hot uh, spring day, it could be as much as 120 degrees. And so I'm done with that. I'm excited about putting on a sweater and wearing a vest. Uh, I like it.
Yeah, I got used to the rainfall. I didn't, at one point, I just went up to the Blue Shed. I did not like taking the bus just to go up to the Blue Shed Teen Center area. So I just walked every day.
Oh wow.
I didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, at a point where I was running every day. I believe that was 10th grade.
Okay.
I ran up the hill if it was either, it didn't matter if it was raining or not. I just did it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's you can overcome it in your mind.
Yeah, one day it was horrible. Like I was soaking through my pants and I actually got a ride.
Yep.
I was stubborn. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, what's a funny story from your travels that you are willing to share?
Uh, well, there's like I said, there's several stories. I think the one that I think is probably the most appropriate.
Oh, sounds like I need to talk to you after recording or something.
Maybe so. We'll just say that the one that, and okay, I'll tell it. I think I can tell it in a safe way. So when you go into a men's restroom in Saudi Arabia, what I did not know is that the first part of the bathroom is a place where they wash their feet and wash their hands before they go into the mosque to pray. And this is for Muslims. And I went into a men's restroom in the mall in Saudi Arabia, in Al Khobar, Saudi Arabia. And I didn't know this. And I went in there and started to um, act like I was using a urinal. And the whole place just erupted. There must have been 25 men in there, all Arabic men. And I didn't realize what I had done. And I was using the area that looked like a long urinal to me, and I was going to do my business there. And that's an area where they wash themselves, their hands and their feet, and able to cleanse themselves to be able to go and pray. Major foopa on my part. And I didn't, and I just kind of threw my hands up and said, mush mushkala, mush mushkala. And everybody started to laugh. And I laughed. And then they helped me go on to the next area, which is the real urinals and toilets. And I thought, Okay, I thought I was going to get strung up. I thought I was in real trouble. So that's one. That's one story. The other story, real quick, is I was waiting to take the ferry from Tunisia to Palermo, Italy, or Sicily, and the man who was helping me negotiate this, it was all run the ferry system is all run by the Tunisian mob, and enable for you to get through it, you have to basically have help, and you have to negotiate. You have to kind of buy your way. You have to know somebody. So anyway, the guy that was helping me was his name was Sammy, and Sammy said, "Mark, you stay in the vehicle. Don't get out of the vehicle, and don't talk to anybody." So my wife and I are waiting there, and along comes this guy with a clipboard and a yellow vest, and he said, "Check in, check in." And I thought he said, "Chicken, chicken." And I said, "No chicken, no chicken." My wife looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't want any chicken." She said, "That's the check-in guy for the ferry." He was saying check-in, and I thought he was saying chicken. So I don't know. Maybe I find it funny. Maybe you don't, Norman.
Uh, yeah, that's kind of goofy.
So
Yeah, I mean that's funny because it could happen to quite literally anybody.
yeah, it was just the language. I was hearing it different anyway. So
Yeah, the reason I think it's kind of funny is I think that would probably happen to me or something like that.
yep.
Yeah, that sounds like something I would do. Oh, here's the last one.
Okay.
And I think I might have already gotten it, but what is your favorite pet or animal?
Well, my wife and I, have a cat at home, a kitty, and we call her Bryn. And we rescued Bryn from the streets of Saudi Arabia. And so she is now an American kitty. And a funny thing that happened there is when we brought Bryn kitty, she's a brindle cat, so she's orange and black. We call her Bryn. And she almost escaped on the plane ride back from Saudi Arabia to the United States. She dug a hole, clawed a hole in her carriage container, which was cloth based, and she almost escaped on the airplane. so, so we have Brendan Kitty at our home with us, and she was a baby kitten that was left alone and disposed of on the streets on the compound that we lived on in Saudi Arabia. And so she's now the third member of our family.
Yeah, that's kind of funny, but young cats tend to be curious.
Say that again.
Oh, I think I'm having a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, I think it sounds like it's kind of fading out a little bit. Well, Norman, do you have any more questions for me?
Yeah, I think that was just a quick.
I th-
Um. Hmm. Well, let's see. I have to check. Yeah, sorry about that. Here, hold on.
okay.
Since we're toward the end, I might as well just get out of the car because I think that's the issue.
Okay.
I don't technically have any questions
Okay.
that I can get off the top of my head right now, but I could show you around outside of my place right now if you want to see it.
Um, that'd be fine. I was thinking about using this video to push out to other for other students to look at. So maybe you want to maybe I should stop the recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
How about I'll stop recording, and hopefully I don't lose you. Let's see here.